All right, guys, back here on Southeastern 14 with Max Barr. Usually we're talking about transfers, but Max, we're talking about a return, a big return to
Out of
Fayetteville.
nowhere.
I feel like you and I talked about this maybe last week. I know I mentioned it. I did the podcast with Greg Peterson, and that was on Monday. And we were talking about, are there any like big additional moves coming for SEC teams? And I'm like, I'm thinking just the players out there. I'm like, all right, Brazil's, we know he's returning. I'm just kind of looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is a possible thing, right? I said, there's probably a low percentage. I'm like, but, could you see a Brazil return to Arkansas? Maybe Cal talks to him, all that. I was literally just trying to come up with something because I could not think of any other big moves out there maybe in the SEC, although we'll talk about some here that I think could be coming for some other teams. But I just did not see this one going down this way. But again, I mean, I think there seemed to be more positive momentum towards this being a possibility as you saw him remove himself from the draft, and you're thinking, where does he wind up? You're looking at like the scholarship tracker for other teams. You're like, Arkansas seems like a decent option if he wants to return and be like a main guy. So,
yeah. First, we have to remind you of our wonderful friends.
well, listen, if you were going to place a bet on Trevon Brazile returning to Arkansas a few weeks ago, I don't think those would have been good odds.
I'd be
Max. You're the
retired
betting
right now.
expert here.
I'd be retired.
Yeah, I don't know if the odds were great, so you would have won a lot of money. But if you wanted to do that, our friends at BetOnline probably could have come up with something great to be able to get you there. Of course, it is the number one source for the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup playoffs this season. Every stat, every matchup, live odds, spreads while the games are being played. When it's over, head over to the online casino, get on a game of blackjack or poker, unwind, and over 150 slots games. Arkansas fans probably fine playing the slots today. They're feeling really good about themselves. So I'd say go play, but play responsibly. Head to the website today to get on the action. Use that promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online. The game starts here. But I mean, again, I think this is one that, there was speculation, but man, now that it's actually happened, maybe it changes how we look at the Hogs a little bit, which we'll get to.
Yeah, Blake. So one of the reasons why we could have retired off of a Brazil return prop bet was because, okay, so we're recording this on June 5th. Let's rewind 2 months to April 8th, okay? Zoop. We're back in April 8th.
Nice sound effect.
Here's Trevon Brazile coming straight quote right from him. Arkansas made a big hire with John Calipari. I'm happy for the program, but I'm going out for my dreams. I'm all the way 100% in the NBA draft.
100%. That's 100%. So,
Well,
yeah.
hey, life moves fast in this world, and guess who is re-energized, refocused? I'm not all the way in the NBA draft. I'm all hog. Run it back. Brazil is back, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
I like the shot too. I'm sure you really enjoyed that shot of him against Duke. I'm sure that was really the one that you're glad that the Arkansas
Had to
social
go
media
there,
team
didn't you?
used. Okay, so let's talk about Brazil because I think let's be honest here. Going into last season, like we were looking at this guy as a surefire first team All SEC. You and I were drinking the Arkansas Kool-Aid last year. Everybody knows it. Like I think we both picked them second in the league. Didn't happen that way. Well, it did not happen at all that way. And we know, Arkansas fans, we don't need to revisit it. We know what happened last season. And so, but if you're just looking at this just from a pure talent standpoint, the reason why everyone was so high on this guy is because we're thinking, okay, he's going to return from this significant injury. And if he's, 85 to 90% of the player he was before, he's got a chance to be really, really good. First team All SEC guy. We saw early in the season the impact he can make on a game. We saw that at various points throughout the season, right? But it was just one of those seasons where, I mean, really, let's be honest, Max, anyone other than Tremont Mark, it felt like, Battle had some big games, but there just was not a lot of consistently. We talked about the rotations, like they were just not consistent. It felt like, Eric Musselman was just pulling at anything he could find. Sometimes that just happens throughout a course of a season. But now you've got a new start under a new coach. And I think this is where, if I'm an Arkansas fan, I remember what happened last season, but I think this is where it's okay to just set it aside and kind of go back to where we were entering last season and thinking, all right, maybe this is what Trevon Brazile needs to be able to be a first-team All-SEC guy next season. And he's going to do it on a pretty loaded roster, as we're going to talk about in a second. But I think we should be more optimistic. I don't think we should just hold last season against him or anyone else really. It was just one of those years. And so I'm pretty excited about this because I'm curious to see how Cal uses him. Curious to see how he meshes with the other guys there. We've talked about just a loaded front court with Aidoo, with Big Z. You've got Thiero. Now you got Brazil coming back. Like, these are all guys that Aidoo, like we said, at Tennessee, he was, the main guy in the front court, right? Thiero started to become kind of the breakout guy for Kentucky. We talked about Big Z, all the potential in the world. Now you got a Brazil who a couple years ago looked like he was on his way to being one of the top 3 to 5 players in the SEC, still has the potential to do so. Holy cow, man.
Well, and I know this is a Trevon Brazile video here, but remember like the first month or two of last year, and Trey Mitchell was looking like a first teamer.
Yeah.
Like he was playing like 40 minutes a game, making just doing everything for Kentucky. You fast forward to February, Adou Thiero is starting over a healthy Trey Mitchell at the 4. Like, Adou Thiero was rock solid last year. And now you add the kind of like the part of Adou Thiero that he doesn't have, which is like that stretch aspect. Brazil's 2 inches taller, a little bit higher of a block rate, a little bit higher of a 3-point percentage, around 35% for his career. So now just at the 4, we're not even talking about any other position. Just at the 4, you've got a 1-2 punch with Brazil and Adou Thiero, rock solid. There's not all these, it's not a list 4 guys deep like it was last year where you have no clue who's getting minutes on what night. At that 5 spot, you've got Jonas Aidoo, you've got Big Z. You can even put a little, if you want to go small, you can put Brazil there. But I mean, you just look at this front court, Blake. It's 4 guys. Brazil and Adou Thiero, Jonas Aidoo, and Big Z. 4 guys for the front court. That's a solid 4-man rotation that you can play little games with.
Yeah, Aidoo averaged 7.3 rebounds per game last season. Brazil averaged 5.9. Thiero averaged 5. And like we said, if you look at it from like Big Z standpoint, if you didn't play the minutes that these other guys did, but if you project ahead and say, all right, that guy's probably could be someone who averages 5 or more rebounds per game, they should be pretty set in terms of the rebounding aspect. And I think that's intriguing because whether it's offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding, I think we look at this team. We may still have some questions about the outside shooting. I think that's fair. But bringing Brazil back helps a little bit, right? Because he's someone who's proven he can step out and make some shots. We've all talked about what John L. Davis can be. And yeah, like I'm very interested to see kind of how the rebounding aspect. I know it's not always the sexy thing to talk about, but to me, I'm looking at a team that feels like they're going to get a lot of second chance points. Mm-hmm. They're going to have a chance to really own the glass. And I think also I'm curious to see defensively how we see guys like Trevon Brazile, Jonas Aidoo. Because remember, Max, we talked about kind of the big thing with Aidoo. Everyone was talking, it's some of the struggles in the games against the elite of the elite, right? Of the big men. I'm curious to see how these guys continue to progress there. But when you put them all together and you see them playing off of each other and look at a possible lineup of DJ Wagner, John L. Davis, either Knox or Richmond, Brazile, Aidoo, and you've got Thiero, maybe Boogie Flan, Richmond, Big Z. All of these guys are going to play. That's 9 guys right there. They're all going to play this season. And, and remember, they still got spots available. So,
yeah, and I think we have to look at it a little bit different than we did last year. I mean, obviously, but the potential is still there. You see when he's healthy, the potential's there, the jump out of your shoes athleticism, the Sports Center top 10 plays. He's got that. Still missed 8 games last year in conference play. It was a knee injury, but it was not like the ACL. It was just like, I think he fell on it and it was like a knee bruise or tweaked it, something like that. He missed 8 games with it and pretty much 9. He only played 4 minutes in his return game. So now you have him 2 years removed from that ACL. You always hear that when we're talking about recoveries from ACL. That first year back, they might pull an Adrian Peterson and just be incredible, but most guys, you're going to need that extra year of recovery to kind of just get everything back in confidence. So last year in SEC play, he had about 22 minutes a game, just under 7 points, just under 5 rebounds a game, and just under 1 block. So let's say this year, we're going to this season thinking like, okay, he's probably going to split some time with Adou Thiero because there's no way Adou Thiero is going to be able to, there's no way he's staying off the court. So let's go into this year thinking, okay, Brazil's might, shoot 35% from 3. Maybe he's putting up 9 and 6. Maybe it's 10 and 5 with a block. And he's shooting 35% from 3, adding in a block, adding in offensive rebounds. I like that. I can't complain with that. If we go into the season thinking, okay, top 10 lottery pick, this guy's going to be first team All SEC, with the roster and how it's given, I don't even know if that opportunity will be there. But if we go in with just this guy's going to be a great athletic piece as a stretch 4, you got that.
All right, so that leads us to this to wrap up. So I was asked a question after this move was made. Okay, someone texted me and they said, "Does this make Arkansas? Can they win the SEC next year?" Like that was the question I was asked, just flat out. Like, can they win the SEC? And my initial thought, just full transparency, I'm like, okay, it's really hard for me right now to find someone that I would place above Alabama, because I think with Alabama, Mark Sears coming back, they made the Final Four last year. A lot of pieces return. They've added impact transfers across the board. Spoiler alert, Alabama's probably going to be our favorite unless something changes significantly between now and the start of the season. I don't think that should really surprise anyone. But that's where we started having the conversation about other teams that could be around in Alabama in that stratosphere. Now we've mentioned the teams before, but we're gonna try to keep like hiding these a little bit, so we're not just giving away our rankings or anything yet. But there were a couple teams, maybe 2, 3, something like that, that we would put around them. I know we did it last year, Max, but I'm starting to even sitting in my seat right now, I'm starting to move a little bit because, I'm starting to get that itch again to really look at the Hogs here and be like, should I put the Hogs a little bit higher? I think with the return of Trevon Brazile, can they win the SEC next year? Everything goes through Alabama, in my opinion. But I think you are seeing the roster that Cal has put together is capable of being a team that is in that category of teams that you're saying, if someone is going to challenge Alabama, and let's say for whatever reason things just do not go according to plan for the Tide, can Arkansas be one of those teams where we're looking up in March and Cal has figured out how to push all the buttons to get the best out of Jonas Aidoo, Trevon Brazile, Carter Knox, John L. Davis, DJ Wagner, and keep going? I don't see how I could say no because of the proven talent that you're adding here on this roster. And like we said, also knowing that there's probably still a piece or two to come, right? So,
yeah, just you can look at it this way to kind of put into context of how good this front court is. I feel like people don't understand how good this front court is. I feel like that those last 2 games Adou had against the best 2 bigs in the nation, feel like they kind of just completely wiped everyone's mind and had no clue this guy was like a top 5, top 10 individual player all year.
Top 5 in KenPom pretty much the entire season.
The entire season.
In the SEC, yeah.
We did SEC basketball fantasy. We're picking Adou like first, second round every time. Okay? So you have Brazil, Thiero, Adou, Big Z. That's just real quick. There's no more Tyrese Samuel, no more Micah Hand-Logton. There's no more the The Kentucky 7-footers, all of them, they're not on Kentucky anymore. LSU, Jalen Reed, Damian Collins. There's no more Tolu Smith. There's no more Jimmy Bell. There's no more. There's the 7-footers at Ole Miss. Both of them are gone. No more BJ Mack. I mean,
they could have 2 of the top 5 front court players in the country. Or in
like,
the
are you
SEC.
kidding me? Like, that's what I'm saying.
They could
like,
have 2 of the top 5. Yeah.
Look at what they've got, man. I'm not getting ahead of myself.
All right. We'll save that for a later date. We'll keep the suspense rolling here, but You guys let us know what you think. Arkansas fans, you've got to be excited, I think, with the addition or the return of Trevon Brazile. And I think it's not just a return, it's a return in how he adds to this roster that was already, we were seeing things come together pretty well, I think, for Cal here. And I think this is another significant one when we look at it. So we'll see if they start to get into that conversation. Curious to see where the Hogs are picked going into next season. We'll, of course, make our picks. We're not going to tell you we're going to pick them second just yet. We know it's like the running joke that Max and I are just going to pick Arkansas second every year. But we'll see if we get there with the Hogs. But for now, we appreciate you guys watching. As always, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well. As always, we're looking for sponsors here at Southeastern 14. If you want to reach out and sponsor with us, advertise with us, someone in the Fayetteville area, Little Rock, any of these places, and you're excited about the Hogs, you want to call the Hogs here at Southeastern 14, you can do so by reaching out to advertise your product. caroline.smith at southeastern14.com. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll talk to you again here soon. Southeastern 14.